Welcome back, guys. Automotive Inc. So I've had a couple watchers ask me to either answer their questions about this or do a video on it. So I just decided to do a quick video on what Chevy truck, Ford truck, Ram truck to choose when you're talking about overhead or slide-in campers. Those are the those are gonna be the campers that you put in the bed themselves of the truck. And which truck do you want to buy? Well, it's kind of subjective. If you already have the cart and you only need the horse, then it's going to be kind of a little bit different than if you have the truck already and you're trying to find one that you like that works with your current truck. It's probably going to be better if you already have the overhead camper and you're just upgrading it, because there's a lot of caveats to figuring out which truck actually can handle your overhead camper. Now, if it's fairly new, I'd say probably within the last 10 years, and the manufacturer is still making campers, you'll probably be able to get a lot of information that you really need to know. So when it comes to a slide-in camper, I've had my time with them. I don't do slide-ins, I do fifth wheels. But that being said, with a slide-in camper, you need to make sure that, one, your bed length is long enough. So if you're going to be half-ton towing with any of these, I would strongly encourage you to get a 6.5-foot bed. I know they probably make ones that work with the 5.5, and that's going to be a very specific slide-in. And that generation, that truck bed's only been around maybe a decade and a half, so you'll probably be able to find out the information. But you're going to want to at least start with a 6.5-foot bed. If you're talking HD trucks, you know that the Ram has the shortest of those boxes. I think it's 6 foot 4 inches. The Ford is 6'8", and the Chevy is 6 foot 10. So you really want to make sure that you have the correct bed length. Now, when it comes to how you're going to handle the weight itself, the center of gravity of that overhead camper needs to be at the axle or towards the cab. A lot of people, I've seen them have these extended long beast ones, and they kind of go out the back end, and I'm sure you guys have seen the videos or the pictures out there with the Ram Mega Cab dually that was busted in half. Keeping in mind that that is a short bed truck, not really made for an extended length one. So if you're going to be in the extended length, the big, massive ones, definitely going to need an 8-foot bed. And I'd probably encourage you to potentially look at a 1-ton dually, just because of the sway and the center of gravity can be forward, but it's also taller in that truck. So you're going to want that stability. Now, if it's one of the lighter ones, I would encourage you to go to your the manufacturer of that. If it's still stamped and you can read it on the side of that camper, the actual total weight of what that is going to be. So then you can go back to your truck and consider, does your truck have enough payload? Now, Chevy and Ford typically put their payload specs on the door panel. You can find these in Rams and all the other manufacturers like that, sometimes in the glove box. A lot of these trucks that you're looking at, though, the HD trucks, are actually not certified for an overhead camper, and they should be, or they used to in the past, is put in a disclaimer in the actual glove box. It's a piece of paper that says this truck is not suitable for an overhead camper. So when you're talking trucks, one, if you're doing an extended cab, double cab, whatever they want to call the smaller cab, super cab, Ram really doesn't even make a smaller quad cab. They just have a crew cab and a mega. You really need to find out where your center of gravity is on your overhead camper that you have or going to get, and you need to find out the actual full loaded weight of that. In addition to that, then you need to find out the payload of the truck, add in all your passengers, all the auxiliary gear that you're going to put in that, and then make sure that that all kind of plays that delicate dance so you don't end up in a very sticky situation where you cause damage to your truck or your camper. Now, if you are looking at a current model 24, soon to be 25 trucks, and you're looking Chevy or GM. So Chevy and GM, guys, I'm going to encourage you to do this. Depending on your payload needs and the size, I would encourage you to get a 1-ton, a 3500. If you're putting all the payload in the bed, I would go with an F350. I would go with a Ram 3500. I would go with a GM 3500. Not necessarily dually, but I'm going to encourage you guys to go with that if you are using it to put lots of weight into the bed, and that's going to be your main mode of thing. Also keeping in mind, Are you going to be towing anything behind that? Typically, people buy overhead campers so they can take quads and bikes and all this other stuff behind it. That's going to play into effect the kind of truck you need, because that tongue weight will basically kind of play into your truck's capacity. So you're taking away a lot of stuff with putting that slide-in camper in. So I would encourage you to do that. Now, does that mean the F-250, 2500 Chevy, Ram 2500 is out? Not necessarily. And here's the caveat to that. You might have a slide-in camper that it's one of the super light ones that works with the payload, your gear, and potential trailering. But I would probably encourage you, if you're ordering one, to go and order one with Chevy Snowplow Prep Camper Package. What that does, it gives you heavier duty front springs, it gives you the underbody skid plates, gives you an alternator that's a little bit more beefed up than a standard one, and it gives you a power feed to accommodate backup and auxiliary wiring. So that's going to be Chevy's and GMC's caveat to do that. Now, if you're looking on dealer lots, I would still encourage you to try and find the truck you like with the Snowplow camper prep package. Now, if we cruise over to Ram, they really don't disclose that it has that. Even in their Snow Chief package, it doesn't really talk about that, or any type of auxiliary upgraded springs. Keeping in mind, a lot of the Rams, when they come to the Rebel HDs and the Power Wagons, their main mantra is not necessarily towing, so they have probably some of the lower payload specs, especially with that shorter bed. So just keep that in mind. And if you go Ram Mega Cab and short bed, it is going to be even lower capacity for payload, so you're going to be really limited into what you can do. Now, most of these beefed up tow prep, camper prep, whatever you want to call it, they're going to be pushing like 3,900 in the 3/4 ton range for payload capacity. So again, keeping in mind water, gas, gear, people, pups, whatever else. Now, if you're looking at Ford, guys, they have a combined package that is the Snowplow camper package. They also break those into two different ones. It's about a $300 ad. I think the Chevy ad was $300. So if you're ordering one, getting one built, this is what you want. Now, on Ford's side, when you get the Snowplow, it does this, this, and this for the Snowplow, and the camper package does this. They break them into like $150, whatnot. I would encourage you to find one that has basically at least the camper package if you're intending on a slide-in camper. But I would just look for one, or if I was going to order, I'd order with both, because you're going to get the upgraded springs for basically a snowplow application and or that extra weight over the cab and the dynamics of that. You get a different alternator, heavy-duty service springs, rear auxiliary springs, and a stabilizer. So Chevy doesn't offer necessarily a factory stabilizer on their camper package, but Ford does. And then you also get with Ford the slide-in camper certification. So keeping in mind, when we talk about warranties with trucks, the stuff we do to it can manipulate warranty coverage. So there's always a lot of things to keep in mind when it talks about that. Now, you can go to your salesman and say, hey, can you tell me this? Not all salesmen go that deep into the specs of every truck. Now, Ford itself also has a computer in most showrooms. You can go in and type in your VIN, and it'll kind of tell your payload, whatnot, or the truck you're looking at, the payload and everything. Chevy does an excellent job of putting a sticker on the door that basically tells you kind of everything. Doesn't always talk about necessarily a slide-in camper weight, and that's where I'd encourage you, if you're looking at the truck on the dealership lots, is to go ahead and get in the glove box, see if it's stamped on the inside if it is or not ready to be a slide-in camper truck. From there, guys, I would then encourage you to, if you don't get the Ford with the stabilizer bar, then go ahead and add timbrins, add bags, add everything like that. And keeping in mind, those are all going to pull into extra weight that your truck and capacity could do. So that is going to be my 2 cents on, if you're looking at a slide-in camper for a GMC, a Chevy, a Ram, or a Ford, is to really delve into payload specs of that exact truck. That should be clearly notated. Not so much on Rams, and they keep taking their site up and down with all the, the SAE J20807 specs. They used to have a site you can type in your VIN, it'll tell you all this stuff. That's always up, down. I have links. I have videos on that. You can go to the search bar and type in, RAM. It'll bring up the tow site. You can go down and click the link, see if it's up. It's not very good that they pull it up and down, because you have to do a lot of different mathematics with the door strike. You can figure it out yourself. But you really want to make sure of that. And then when it comes to last but not least, guys, I would strongly encourage you to look at your rear end that you're getting in that specific truck and make sure it's a locker. The only reason being is because if you go to any of the towing spec sites, so see, Chevy gives you a 373 in the gas period and 342, I think, in the diesel. So, really they give you the two, that's it. So just make sure that you have what you need there. When it comes to Ford, though, they offer a lot of standard rear ends non-locker, and if you go to the tow spec website, it'll actually show you that those can cut the towing and capability of the truck quite a bit. Maybe not as much when it comes to the payload, but that in mind, the actual usability of the truck and the heavy dutiness of the rear end, I would strongly encourage you to make sure you look at that. So when it comes to that, it's kind of subjective, because you really got to know, this is the camper I want to put in the truck, and this is exactly it. You get all the specs, then you go down and find the truck that fits your needs. If you have the camper and you're replacing the old truck, and the old truck was probably made before 2015, these new trucks have way more capability. You're probably going to be okay. Just kind of making sure that you really want that camper package. You really want it kind of set up to do what you need. You don't want to put yourself in a bind, and you want to make sure, I always say, have 20% more than what you need. So if you have an ultralight and you had it in a 1/2 ton, 6.5 foot bed, and you think you want to reuse that in a bigger truck, then at least get a 3/4 ton, because the stability of the big trucks, I talk about all the time about power. Do I really need a diesel? Do I really need a gas? Well, that depends on your towing needs, but think about the truck itself and how it actually handles the weight, how it steers, how it handles in the wind. Does it feel like it's in control while you're driving? Do you feel like you're in control? Because I can tell you this much, the 24 Ram 3500 non-HO really didn't have as good a stability as the gas Chevy or the gas Ford. And so, the engine is not necessarily the only thing you guys need to make sure that you are paying attention to when you look at that. So, guys, I hope that answered your question. Please feel free to comment. I will try and get back to you as soon as I can on that, and help you kind of like bob and weave through that process, if you will. But really find out your weights from your manufacturer, find the camper you want, find the weights, find the center of gravity, see if you need a long bed or short bed. And then go in there and just look at the window sticker. Look at the door strikes on these things. And compare all of that in addition to the weight and payload stuff that has nothing to do with the camper. The water, the propane, you, the kids, everything like that before you pull the trigger on that. Really, package-wise, it doesn't really matter. It will take a little bit less of the payload away if you get like a loaded Chevy or a loaded Ford versus you get like a bean can or like a work truck or a custom or something like that. So a lot of different caveats, but that is going to be the easiest starting point when you're talking about slide-in campers. And it can play over to fifth wheels and or tow behinds, is really making sure, because they always talk about the capabilities. You see the commercials where it says this truck can tow 29,000, 35,000, whatever the numbers they're pushing now in 25, who even knows at this point. But that is like a perfect world, 2-wheel drive, bean can truck. So you really got to make sure that the exact truck you want works with the camper you're going to be buying, tow behind, in, slide in, whatever. And you really got to make sure that you don't get too much camper further than what your truck can do, because you don't want to cause damage to your investment. As always, guys, make sure you smash the subscribe button, whatever side that's on in the video. And make sure you please hit the like button, notification bell, so you know when I'm putting up new content. And we'll see you on the next one.